Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in June, as well as doing a TBR jar video to pick my TBR for July. So I have my little TBR jar here. I just chose prompts from Pinterest and then just kind of made some up myself from ones that I've seen and I guess books that I know I have on my shelf. So yeah, there's some in here, so hopefully we'll have enough to pick from. Yeah, I don't read fast enough to do a whole video on the books that I read each month, so I figured this would be a fun way to kind of do both. So yeah, first I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in June, and then we'll get to the TBR cart video. Let's pull up my Goodreads. I read 5 books this month. One was one that I listened to, and then 2 of them were part of one series, and then 2 of them were part of another series. So there's really not that much to talk about. Literally, I'm talking about 2 different series and then 1 other book, but I'll tell y'all my thoughts anyway. The first book that I read in June was The Inmate by Frida McFadden, and this was the one that I actually listened to. If you saw my previous video talking about all the books that I read this year, I talked about how I've been loving to listen to Frida McFadden books, and this was just as fun as the rest of them. They give me this same amount of entertainment and satisfaction each time. It's like I'm not super scared or like super on the edge of my seat or anything, but I'm still having a good time while I'm listening to it. And something else I like about it is that the lady that reads for Frida McFadden, she's read like all the books that I've listened to so far by her. I'm not sure if she reads all of them, but yeah, so I'm like used to her voice. I like listening to her, and I fly through the audiobooks of them because they are really entertaining. So highly recommend checking those out if you haven't, because I don't like listening to all audiobooks, but I feel like thrillers, and at least Frida McFadden, is super entertaining and fast to listen to. So I really like listening to those. So I gave that book a 4 stars, I think. Yeah, 4 stars. And that book follows this lady who gets a nursing job at this like high security prison, and somebody that's in there she actually put in there. She's a little bit responsible for putting him in there just because she testified against him, and then the story kind of progresses from there. She kind of questions herself and things start getting weird like with all the Frida McFadden books. Yeah, I really liked it, and the twist really got me. Like I was at work listening to the final bit of it and I was like, what? I audibly reacted to the ending of it, or the twist. So I think that was a really good Frida McFadden book. Okay, and then for books that I actually physically read, we have The Ballad of Never After. I had just finished Once Upon a Broken Heart in May, basically in June. So then I picked up The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This one I had too high of expectations on, and they let me down. But that's my fault because I set very high expectations, and I thought that the ending was going to be really great and such a twist and turn, and really sad because I had seen people crying and make you want to, you know, immediately pick up the next book. And although I felt those things, I just felt like I wasn't very emotionally attached to these characters. And so when the ending came, and I just was like, okay, I don't know, because I also knew that there was going to be a 3rd book, so it's like, well, clearly things are going to work out. Yeah, I wish I enjoyed this more than I did. I still really enjoyed it. It was just, I thought it was going to be a 5-star read, and it was more like a 4. Not sure if that's my fault because I had too high expectations, but probably. But the first book is Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I think I liked that one the best. I just loved being in that new world and seeing Evangeline and Jax and them bicker, and this like crazy adventure that Evangeline goes on. I thought it was so entertaining. Like I just love that fairy tale whimsical setting. So if you don't know what Once Upon a Broken Heart is about, here, I'll hold that one up. Okay, so this is the first one, Once Upon a Broken Heart, and it follows our main character Evangeline. It starts off with her going to the Prince of Hearts like lair, I guess, I don't even know what it's called, to ask him to stop this wedding because her her boyfriend is marrying her stepsister. She thinks that her stepmother has put a curse on her boyfriend. So it starts off with that, and then because of that, she's now indebted to the Prince of Hearts, and so she has to kind of follow along with what he wants to do at that point. Things get crazy, and obviously there's 3 books. I really did enjoy this series overall. Yeah, the first one was definitely my favorite. I really enjoyed the first one. But yeah, the second one I rated a 4 stars. And then the next book that I read, I just went straight into the next one, is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. And I won't say too much about what actually happens in this book, but I think this book was so dragged out. I think that it really didn't need to happen, and maybe these 2 books could have been longer and made it just a duology, because something happens in here where it just feels like so repetitive, because you're kind of finding out things that we already know. It spends more time on that, reminding you of things that already happened in the first 2 books than like actually having much of a storyline in this one. And then the ending was just kind of wild. It was all over the place. Overall, I really did enjoy this series. I rated this one a 3 stars, but I do really recommend this series. It was so fun and magical, and I hope that I can find another series or book that like has the same magical and whimsical element, because that was the best part of this series for me. Really enjoyed. So then I picked up The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I flew through this book. I read it in 24 hours. I started it on the beach, and then the next day I could not put it down. I loved this book so much. It's right up my alley. It's just what I would want in a book. It has a little bit of romance and a mystery element that is so good, and like also like a found family element. So basically this follows Cassie Hobbs, and she's 17 years old, and she gets recruited to be in this like FBI program called The Naturals, where her and these other 5 teenagers? Yeah, I think it's her and 4 other teenagers are in this program, and they are assigned to solve cases because they all have different like special abilities. She's a natural profiler, and then there's somebody that can like detect when anybody is lying, and then somebody that is really good at statistics and numbers and stuff like that, and just facts in general. Someone can like tell someone's emotions just by looking at them. Yes, it is so good. Highly recommend this series. I rated the first one a 5 stars when I first read it, but I was like, okay, let's settle down a little bit. I definitely really enjoyed it, and I couldn't really find anything wrong with it, but I mean, I wasn't very like connected to the characters or anything. I just thought that the plot was so fun, which might be all that it should take for a 5 stars. So I'm kind of iffy on that one, because it's not a 5 star like one of my favorite books I've ever read, but it's a 5 star in the sense that nothing was wrong with it, and I enjoyed every second of this book, and I thought it was like perfectly paced out. The plot twist was crazy, and it was just very good. Yeah, so after that I wanted to go straight into another one, which is Killer Instinct. I just finished this last night. It was June 30th. Just finished this book. I gave this one a 4 stars. I don't know if it was just because I had just read it. I wasn't as like invested, but every time I did pick it up, I became invested. It was just not something that I wanted to like go out of my way to pick up, and was thinking about it a lot like I was with the first book, but it was still really entertaining, and the plot twist still got me, yeah, for the most part. But again, like I wasn't like super attached to this one as much as I was to the first one. I feel like wasn't invested in the story as much. So yeah, so I'm taking a break from this series just so I can make sure that I'm fully enjoying it and not just like pushing myself to read it when I'm not really in the mood, because I think this is just one of those books you have to read when you're in the mood for something like this. So I'm gonna just talk about really quick what I'm reading now. I just picked up last night Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and I'm really liking her. I don't feel like I'm a huge romance fan, because I do enjoy a plot a lot, even though my favorite book is Magnolia Parks, and that has no plot at all. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like it's so predictable, romances. Obviously it's gonna be a happily ever after, and you know, some things might happen along the way, but that's where it's gonna end up, whereas like fantasy and mystery, it's, you know, more up and down all over the place. Romance follows a set guideline, I guess. Nonetheless, I am really enjoying this book so far, and I did enjoy her last book that I read, the first book I read by her, Part of Your World. So yeah, and I love that she has like little dogs on the cover. It was so funny because last night I noticed that there was the dog on the cover, and then I got in bed and like kept reading the book, and as soon as I kept reading the book, it talked about the dog, and I was like, oh, there's the dog, because for the first like, I don't know, 30 pages or something, it hadn't mentioned the dog, and then as soon as I think about the dog, there it is. So yeah, this book follows Brianna and Jacob, and they both work at the hospital. Jacob had just started and was kind of getting a bad rap in the office so far, and come to find out he has social anxiety, so he was dealing with that while people were just thinking that he was being rude to them, and Brianna kind of had this bad taste in her mouth about him until he wrote her a letter, and so I think they end up kind of like writing back and forth and forming a bond through these letters. Not quite sure because I haven't gotten there yet. I am on page 40, but I just think it's fun to kind of like tell y'all what I'm actually reading currently. Those are my reads. Now we're gonna get on to the TBR jar. I'm so excited. I have been wanting to do this for so long because I keep seeing everybody do this type of video, and I just think it's so fun, and also just such a good way to like focus on set books instead of just looking at all of these books, you know, like having set books to pick from kind of makes it easier to get through books, I feel like, because this can be a little overwhelming. I have a lot of books on my physical TBR. I think I have like 70 books, probably more at this point. I'm gonna pick 5 books, I think, because normally in a month I read 4. Yeah, I read 4 this month. That's like normally how much I read. So I'm gonna challenge myself with 1 more book for the month, but I think 5 is a good number. Here we go. A green book. Okay, here are our options. We have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. That's like the last book in the, what's the series called? In the Truly Devious series. Okay, I feel like those are our options, which is fine because I think I already know what I'm gonna go with because I need to get through this book. I keep looking at it on my TBR cart and thinking that I need to go ahead and read it. I read the first 2 books in the fall time. Obviously, it probably is a better fall time book, but clearly I'm already like always okay with mystery thriller books, but I read this last fall time, so I think it's time for me to go ahead and finish this series up before I forget everything that's happened, because I fear that has already happened to me. So The Hand on the Wall. The Truly Devious series is basically about this school called Ellingham Academy, and I think her name's Stevie. Stevie goes there in the first book basically because she is obsessed with like murder mysteries and true crime stuff, and she goes there because there's like this unsolved case that happened there years and years ago, and so once she gets there, crazy things start happening to where the old case kind of merges with a new case, and then things get crazy. But I really like the atmosphere of this type of books, like the academy and like the school vibes. I don't know. Also the fall time, obviously, the best. I think I'll have fun with this one, and I'm excited to see what happens. So I have that one. That's 1. A book that scares you. I felt like I wouldn't have to get this right away, the first video I did. So I'm thinking like a book that's like kind of intimidating for me. Obviously I don't want to do one too intimidating. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. This book, okay, let me show y'all the ones that are intimidating. Really, it's mainly like series. Like I'm intimidated by the ACOTAR series and this big old book right here, Iron Flame. I'm scared of that one because I wasn't too keen on the first one as much as everybody else was. I'm gonna do Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow because this one intimidates me due to the fact that it's like literary fiction and I don't read that like a whole bunch. So, and it's so general that I have no idea really what I'm getting myself into, and I've heard that it's sad and it just seems like a heavy read. I don't even know if that's true. It might not be, but it just seems like a heavy read and I'm not always keen to pick those up out of all the other books that I have on my TBR. So this is a good one because I feel like this is going to be a really good book. I'm just a little scared of it. So I'll put that on the TBR. Okay, this one's a book with people on the cover. Oh my gosh, do I even have a book with people on the cover? I have None Shall Sleep, and it has a person on the cover. I didn't specify when I wrote that. Oh, this one has People, The Hating Game. Okay, okay, I have a good amount. Funny you should ask. I'm gonna put the None Shall Sleep back since that's just a person. When I was writing that, I was kind of thinking like, you know, kind of like a comic drawing of people. The Bodyguard has people on the cover. Any other one have people on the cover? I don't think so. Oh, Never has people on the cover. A lot of these have one person on the cover, but not people. Oh wow, so these are options. These are some interesting options right here. These are a whole bunch of romance. Okay, well, we don't have romance on the TBR yet, so really this is good. You know what I'm gonna go with? If I'm picking from this based off the books that I probably should read first, it would be The Hating Game, because I have had this on my TBR for a very long time. Oh, I never said what Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow was about. Okay, let me put these back and I'll tell y'all what these books are about. I'm pretty sure it's about like these friends who create a video game together, and so it's kind of about their like journey with that and like friendship in general. That's what I've gathered from what I've heard people talk about it. And then The Hating Game by Sally Thorne is a romance, a workplace romance, and I think they don't like each other, and so they may like pull pranks on each other. There's a battle of wills. I think they're like pranking each other type of thing because they act like they don't like each other, but obviously they do. Could be fun. I don't know. Okay, a book published this year. I don't know if I have any on this TBR card that were published this year. I really don't think I do. Oh, maybe this one was. I think this one actually was. No, it was published last year. Oh, maybe How I'll Kill You. I don't think that was published this year, but maybe it was. I might not have one for this one because I really got all of these books like from Christmas. So most of these books are from last year. Like I could do Abby Jimenez because I knew that came out this year, but also I'm reading this now and I don't want to read two of her books in the same month. I'm just gonna put this back in the jar and hopefully another time I'll have another one. I hope I'm not missing any. I think I've had these on my TBR for a while, which is good. I haven't bought any new books. Ooh, okay. A book set in a different time period. I think I have to go with Half a Soul. I wasn't really planning on reading this anytime soon. I'm excited about it, but I was just kind of putting it off a little longer, I guess. Oh, no. You know what I'm gonna do? Haha. This is modern, isn't it? What year? What year is this? Okay, never mind. I don't know. Oh, Divine Rivals. Okay, I think I'm gonna do Divine Rivals because this was definitely set. I'm not sure when. It was like during the time of like a war and there was like typewriters involved, so I'm guessing that was not recently. This is a good one to do because Half a Soul is not really like a different time period. Well, I guess it is, but it's also like fantasy, so it's kind of just a different world in general. I mean, it's like Regency, but very Regency. But Divine Rivals is definitely one I could do, and I've been excited about that, so this is good. Okay, and I have one more to pick for today's prompts. A book set somewhere you've always wanted to visit. I really don't know if I have one for this one. Could I do New York City, even though I've been there? I might do this, even though I've been there, but I've always wanted to visit. No, I don't know. Powerless, I don't think I can do Powerless. So it's like a different world. Okay, maybe I could do this because this one, I think I'm gonna do this one, even though it might be cheating a little bit, but I want to make sure that I get to this. I know I'm gonna want to read this book, so I'm gonna use the prompt for this one, even though, I mean, it does count, and it probably is the closest I'm gonna get because a lot of these are fantasy and some of them are, you know, I don't even know where they are set. So I think we're gonna go with this one because I'm probably going to pick this up this month, and that is the setting of Las Vegas, so we'll use this. Okay, and I also didn't say what Divine Rivals was about. So Divine Rivals, I really don't know what it's about. It is a fantasy book, and it's during this time of this war, I think, and basically these two people start like writing letters to each other. After centuries of sleep, the gods are wearing again, but 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle. For her brother, the fate of mankind and love. I like it. Sounds good. And then obviously obviously The Naturals, we already talked about that, but this is the third in the series. Now we have our books. This is what we're working with. We have All In, which was from the A Place You Always Wanted to Visit prompt. We have Divine Rivals, which was from the book set in a different time period prompt. And then The Hating Game, which was people on the cover. And then we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow Tomorrow, which is a book that scares me. And then The Hand on the Wall, which is green cover. So these are all the books that I plan to get to in July. Stick around if you want to see how many I actually achieve, or if I end up just straying from the TBR completely and reading something else. But that's the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!